Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And today's show is the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call, starting out with the Congressman and his opening statements. He started out talking about the Problem Solvers Caucus.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. Wanted to follow up on a press conference we just did here in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol. And that was the announcement of the Problem Solvers Caucus Break the Gridlock proposal. What we have put together in a bipartisan fashion is a proposal of rule reforms. Those are the rules that control how legislative items get to the floor of the House, how the rules of the House dictate how debates occur, what items get discussed, and also there's a rule reform in there that deals with how does one vacate the Speaker's chair. Right now, one member can bring that motion to vacate and force a no-confidence vote. And as we saw, some of the extremists on both sides of the aisle, in my opinion, can take advantage of that type of mechanism, as well as the other rules that exist today, to control the floor in a way that doesn't reflect legislative consensus building that will solve the problems for the people back home. So this group of members, 24 Democrats, 24 Republicans, have come together to say we're united as a block of folks that want to see the House chamber reform its rules so that we start encouraging and rewarding consensus and collaborative legislative process to get to the solutions for the American people back home. As we have gone through this process, I will tell you, being a Problem Solvers Caucus member and the founder of it and as co-chair of it on the Republican side, I do respect many of my colleagues of Democratic and Republican sides of the aisle that I truly do believe that have come here to legislate, to listen to the people they represent, and engage in the process that will bring forth solutions that they can be proud of and that will advance the cause of making America stronger and greater in the future. But what has happened is we have hit some obstacles in the House, in the institution itself. And those obstacles of the rules have prevented consensus type of legislation, have been utilized by extremists to hold up the floor of the House for purity, as opposed to recognizing that 80% of a position is not a defeat, it is a victory. And that's the old Ronald Reagan approach. So anyway, wanted to highlight the announcement of that Break the Gridlock package. We are standing firm as Republican and Democratic members to send the message that we're listening to the frustration of the American people, and it is time to break the gridlock of the U.S. House to get things done for the people we represent. The next step of this is, and as I've said publicly, I am withholding my support for the Speaker election that is coming up, and only will support a candidate that embraces and supports the reforms of these rules that we are talking about in order to open it up and make us much more collaborative as opposed to beholden to the extremism that has overtaken the country in Washington, D.C. So that being said, let's open it up to questions.
Michael Baldwin.
Congressman, how are you?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. We're all very familiar at this stage in the game of President Trump referring to fake news and his general disdain, more times than not, of the media. And I know that you never speak on behalf of the president, but from your perspective, when it comes to the media in the 23rd Congressional District, are media outlets in your district, in your opinion, fake news or relevant?
Well, I think the media outlets across the district are relatively professional groups. You guys do a great job of engaging us in our office and to get our position known and put on the record. And I applaud the efforts of the media of the 23rd Congressional District. I think they have demonstrated a commitment to journalism and to carrying the news to the people back home. I will say there are many organizations, not just in the 23rd Congressional District, but at large, the nation as a whole, that sometimes carry one bias or another in regards to how they're presenting and selecting the news that they push forward. But that's been going on since the founding of our nation. That's been going on since the 1700s. So that's nothing new. It's just a recognition of what is in the media. And at the end of the day, all we can ask is that people give us a fair shake. And what I find in the 23rd Congressional District is the professionalism of the journalist class is just that. People that are generally trying to give us a fair shake and just report the news to the people that listen or read their materials. All right, Michael, thank you.
Dennis Phillips?
Yeah, hi, Tom. This is Dennis from the Post-Journal. I just had one question about SNAP benefits. I guess at the end of the month, some farmer markets won't be able to process some SNAP benefits. I was just hoping to get your take on that.
Yes, no, this is something, and I appreciate the interaction with the press. This is an example that we weren't aware of a few weeks back when Jason Sample, one of your colleagues there on the radio, raised the issue, and we weren't aware of it. Since that time, what we have done is dug into this, reached out to the USDA and to the powers to be in the administration, and we secured an extension through the end of August to make sure that these payments can be processed at our farmers markets. And the goal in talking with those officials is to replace or allow the present organization that processes these payments to continue in that capacity so that the EBT payments can occur at the farmers market. And that is something I'm very committed to, because as we go into harvest season and we see more and more farmer markets across the district, we want to make sure that people have access to those products by utilizing those benefits that they can under the present arrangement.
Okay, so Tom, if I understand, there's been an extension through the end of August, and then I guess things will just go from there with possibly keeping the same company or finding a new company?
That's exactly the hope. And now that we've engaged with the administration, it's clear to me they want to work with us to make sure that there's no loss in the processing of those payments come the end of August. And that is a good thing. That is a positive thing. And be it with either the existing entity and working out their issues, or bringing in another entity so that there can be a seamless transition to that operation.
It's the Congressman Tom Reed Weekly Press Call. Next up was a question from AM 1480 WLEA. As a longtime attorney, did you have any thoughts on the move pulled by Michael Cohen and Lanny Davis to release tapes of President Trump from years ago?
Oh, obviously, being a former attorney, the attorney-client privilege is something that we were taught is something that is extremely sacred and is secure. And to see just that privilege potentially violated is something I'm still trying to get my mind around as an attorney who has been taught from day one that you don't do that. Now, I don't know the legality of what caused that tape to breach the attorney-client privilege, so I'll defer to the experts and the others that are dealing with the situation on a day-to-day basis. But, as you see these tapes come out, I'm sure there's going to be more of them. I just hope that people recognize the potential attorney-client privilege issues that this threatens in regards to everyone who has relied on that confidential communication with an attorney through their businesses, personal situations, and can understand and appreciate that if you violate that privilege, that confidentiality, that is something that will take a tremendous amount of adjusting to as a country.
Thank you.
One question. There was an article in today's Buffalo News. Comments made by former congressman around here, Amo Houghton, that following last week's summit by President Trump with Russian President Putin, Houghton saying that he is, quote, scared for the country. What's your reaction to Houghton's comments?
Well, I know Amo very well. We go way back, and we talk with each other on a regular basis. And I am well aware of his anxiety and concerns that he expressed to the Buffalo News. And as I've tried to reassure him that it is not as dire as he may see it, and so I respectfully disagree with his conclusion that somehow this is going to lead to the destruction of the country. I don't share that thoughts. What I do share with him, and I've shared with you and others, is at times I've had disagreement with the president. I've had disagreement with the president in the way he presents issues, be it in the media or with commentary, and I choose to use my personal relationship with the president to relay those criticisms and opinions. And so we'll continue to do that going forward. But obviously, I highly regard and respect Amo Houghton, and I just do not share his concern that the end of the country is now here because of this presidency.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Yep, thank you.
And we're going to take a break here on the Newsmaker Show on Wlea with the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call. When we get back, we'll start off with a call from WRFI Ithaca. Stay with us.
You take flooring for granted, don't you? I mean, if you think about how much wear and tear you put that floor through, why would you even think about buying a cheap floor when you need one? Buy quality flooring from Mullen Factory Direct Floor Covering in Almond. Mullins buys in bulk, and that means you save money on quality flooring. They even offer 0% interest for qualified buyers. Shop over 400,000 square feet of major name brand in-stock flooring and get it installed now. And no box store wait. Mullen Factory Direct Floor Covering in Almond. Let them floor you.
Meteorologist Rob Carolyn is breathing a big sigh of relief because our listening area, missed the flash floods yesterday.
Yes, we did, Brian. There were some places down in northern Pennsylvania that ended up with over 3 inches of rainfall. That was on top of the 3 inches they had received previous from the weekend on. It looks like most of it was central Pennsylvania up towards the Bradford area, and then to our south and east, out to east of Binghamton. That's where the problems were. So we were lucky. A lot of places picking up 2, 3, 4 inches of rain yesterday. Our amounts were much lower than that. We're relatively quiet today. We've got a little bit of patchy fog in spots, but most of the action again today is going to be off to our east. I'm seeing rain right now from about the Rome and Utica areas into Albany up to Burlington, Vermont, and then across northern New England. There are a few showers, though, this morning in eastern Michigan, and that's going to try to track our way for later today and into tonight, associated with a cool front that will bring somewhat more comfortable weather into the area for the weekend. Sun came up this morning at 5:58. It will set tonight at 8:36. We'll see some sun develop before we cloud in, with the chance of some showers and storms by late today, 80 to 85. Showers and storms are possible tonight, 65. Tomorrow, clouds and some sunshine. The risk of a shower or thunderstorm, 75 to 80. Then for Saturday, a mixture of clouds and sun, cooler, drier, 75. Partly sunny, maybe a late day storm Sunday, and 75 to 80, Brian.
Thanks, Rob.
You got it, sir. Have a good one today.
Back on Newsmaker, I'm Brian O'Neill, and the call continues with Congressman Tom Reed and his media call for the week. This is Reed taking a question from WRFI Ithaca.
Earlier this summer, you had sort of a discourse with our mayor, Savante Myrick, about supervised injection sites. Is there anything that you want to say regarding resources for those dealing with addiction?
The difference of opinion that I have with the mayor is clear. I do not support open injection of heroin in our communities under government supervision. I think that is a radical extreme position that is not going to get to the root cause of the problem, and is something that we will stand opposed against. Now, that being said, I think the mayor and I share a common interest and commitment to dealing with the issue of addiction, to dealing with the resources necessary to get into this issue, to solve it once and for all, from a prevention, education, awareness, law enforcement, and treatment, as well as immediate first responder type of capability to deal with those overdose situations that the first responders come across. So I think we can work together on many of these issues, and that is why the funding that we've been able to secure at the federal level has made significant investments, starting with the 21st Century Cures Bill, as well as others in the budget bills, to fighting this opioid crisis, this addiction that is across this country in a top priority fashion, upon which you see those investments going out to our local communities. So I don't agree with his approach on open injection heroin sites. I think that's a radical extreme position, and we'll just let people know where we stand on the issue. But going forward, want to work where we can find common ground, and I think we can find common ground in those other areas. Terry Frank?
Yes, Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Terry. How you doing?
Not too bad. I did want to switch the topic to trade. There's been an awful lot that's been said about that. And over the past 24 hours, the New York State Farm Bureau has issued a statement with regards to the $12 billion that's being offered to many farmers as a way to buffer these tariffs that are either in place or going into place. I wanted to get your thoughts about that. The Farm Bureau says, you know, we'll take them, but we're not really excited about them.
Well, and I can appreciate that sentiment. I have not seen the Farm Bureau release personally, but I understand. I appreciate where they're coming from, and I hopefully folks in the agricultural community, as well as myself, can acknowledge that if there is disruption, which this trade policy of the Trump administration is a new disruptive force on the issue of trade, but we recognize, as I have said, that as you go down this disruptive path, there are going to be some potential short-term consequences to it, and our farming communities are an example of that potential impact. And so having the relief that the president has put on the table, I think is a recognition by the administration, and I'm supportive of it, that says to those farmers, to those people that are seeing the potential negative effects of this new trade policy on the short term, that we will give them a relief to stand with them as we go through this. That being said, I think there's common, and I hear it quite often in our agricultural community, that trade for so long has been unfair to America, has been unfair to American farmers, that you have things like ultra-filtered milk in Canada being prevented from being sent over to that marketplace. You're seeing steel and aluminum and tariffs and actions by China when it comes to intellectual property and items associated with those industries that are just fundamentally unfair. And so this is something I think there's common ground and common interest in standing together to say, give us a fair shake, give us a level playing field upon which to trade our commodities, our services, and that is all they're looking. Not looking for preference, looking for equal and level playing field.
I had a quick follow-up, Tom.
Please.
I was listening to a talk show this morning, and one of the economists on there said, you know, with this looming trade war, if you will, that is taking place here, Congress is kind of abdicating its responsibility because Congress is supposed to be acting on tariffs or should be acting on tariffs. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know, obviously, taxation comes through us, but the president has been given over years of decades, actually, of legislative action, authority to act in this place, in this trade area through executive action. Now, I do subscribe that we need to bring some of that authority back to Congress, and that is why the Trade Promotion Authority piece of legislation, if you remember when we adopted that and the controversy and the many of the critics who opposed us and fought with us in regards to the Trade Promotion Authority, it did exactly that. It brought back, that Trade Promotion Authority, brought back to Congress its legislative role in negotiating and adopting trade agreements going forward. And we can support that going forward, and we'll continue to look for opportunities to do that. But when it comes to the tariffs, yeah, absolutely. But this is the nature of where the president stands, and he is using his authority. I don't think he's exceeding his authority, and he is bringing disruptive policies to the trade agenda to put our interests first, and at the end of the day, be willing to walk away from the table once we get that even and level playing field.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Yep, thank you.
Rick Miller?
Hey, with these tariffs in the agriculture industry in particular, is there a danger that the U.S. farmers could lose markets for years, similar to back when Jimmy Carter was in the White House, the Russian embargo, grain embargo? Could they be out of these markets for years and be
I don't believe so. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
And be sitting on, big, supplies of grain and other commodities?
Yeah. Well, no, I do not believe so, because in prior situations, I don't believe there was a commitment as much as there is in this administration just to get to that even level playing field. I think there were many in those prior administrations that want to give America a preferential position, wanted to use its might to potentially be in a position to exploit other markets in order to put the American market on top of the others. Now we have a different standard. We are just trying to get to an even and level playing field that America then can compete upon. And as we go through this process, and given the nature of the size of the American market, I think that having access to our market is critical to many of these nations that we're dealing with, and that will give us the leverage that we need in order to settle this up so that we get that even level playing field.
Have you heard from any farmers in the district about this?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. As you know, Rick,
and whether it's going to help them or not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As it was indicated, the Farm Bureau's response is consistent with what I've heard from agricultural folks across the district. We were on a dairy farm recently talking to those folks as they were dealing with issues not only on trade and tariff and pricing, but other issues. So we have clearly heard that there are some concerns here that are coming as a result of the tariff situation. But many of them recognize that we need to open up these markets. We need a rules-based trading situation that protects American interests just as much as China may protect its interests, just as much as Canada may protect its, and Mexico may protect its. We need to open up these markets to a level where those rules are enforceable and they're fair for everyone involved.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Rick.
All right, that wraps it up.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week. Sorry we're out of time.
So that's that for the Congressman Tom Reed Weekly Press Call here on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. I'm Brian O'Neill. Stay with us. Brian Kilmeade's next.